Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the episode of my Minecraft Xbox Update Adventures Let's Play. This is the Let's Play where I'm playing through the various updates that have come out for Minecraft on the Xbox, building stuff, killing stuff, and of course, destroying stuff. And today, I'm actually going to be working on a huge build that I think I can finally finish today, because I was thinking, like, all of the dirt I've been collecting over the past couple of weeks, I knew I needed it for some reason, like, there was no dirt around, but I was like, what was that thing for? And then suddenly I fly across this one day, and I'm like, oh, I should totally finish the, flat tabletop mountain thing, because I think it'll look really great when it's finished. It looks really weird having a hole in it, so I figured that'd be a great thing to finish. And while we do so, because this is a episode recorded a little bit out of time because I'm currently, I think, on a flight home as this goes live, but I'm flying home or just got home, and I figure rather than uploading a video just as I get back from my my Dominican trip or whatever, a little bit of US in there too, rather than doing it just then and like relying on it going up in time and maybe being a worse thing, why not do it ahead of time and just do a different type of Let's Play episode? So today is going to be a different type of Let's Play, because instead of building stuff, killing stuff, and destroying stuff or whatever, I wanted to tell some awkward stories. And I know awkward stories, everyone's favorite thing, but no, I wanted to tell some awkward stories because, honestly, I think awkward is one of the worst feelings in its own way, right? Like, there are some times where you think back and like, this is, sometimes you go back and you cringe at like, why did I say that, and this time? And it's one of the worst feelings, I think, particularly as a teenager. And given that some number of the people that watch me are in that phase of just like, awkward is the worst, feeling in the world, avoid it at all costs. And again, I think there are benefits to that being a thing, like awkward as a feeling is a good thing for society sometimes, but it's also really dangerous and painful and stuff. So I figured, why not tell some of my worst awkward stories? Because most YouTubers, their whole job is to try and make themselves look cool in some way, and that's probably something I do without realizing sometimes. But this is going to be the exact opposite, because here are just some painful moments from my life of the past year or two or something like that. Yeah, something like a year or so. So here are some awkward stories to make you, either you just enjoy them because they're awkward IRL, maybe they make you feel better, or maybe some combination of the above. But let me tell you about the one that happened just this morning that made me kind of want to do this, because, I had a door-to-door, person come to my door. I don't know how to describe it without selling it, but basically, she was a door-to-door religious person, like a really old lady. She came to my door early this morning, and she came at something like, let's call it 10 a.m. So I'd woken up, I'd showered, I'd eaten breakfast, and I was just not quite in the mood to talk because it's a weekend or whatever, and I was expecting a parcel, and I was like, oh yeah, there's something here, I'm excited, I'll go straight to the door, and I'll deal with this, even though I'm not wearing socks or whatever, because, again, for parcel delivery people, I'm sure they care more about their time than if you're wearing socks, or even, trousers or something, or maybe I'm over-assuming that, but either way, I go to the door, kind of lazily, not ready for this conversation, and it's an old lady. She's like, oh, just moved into the area I did, and, I'm talking to all the people. She didn't say that, but she said something that made me think she'd just moved in, and I was like, oh, okay. That's nice, smiled, I'm Andrew, blah, 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 blah. And then she, she pulls a reverse switch after we've, been friendly, and she's like, so what makes you happy in your life? And I'm like, this is a weird question to ask a neighbor. Is this going somewhere dangerous? And, I don't know what I answer with, just like, oh, things, I guess, a happy, productive life, or something along those lines. And then, guess what? Reverse thing, she pulls it into a conversation about religion, because, and, I want to clarify right here, I don't have any ill will towards, I think, religion as a whole. I'm not anti-religious or pro-religious. It's not my thing. I don't like to talk about it. But I do have a problem with, I think, door-to-door religion. I think that's one of the dangerous things. And, there's only really two door-to-door religions, and they're both going to come in this story. But, I feel like, again, if you're, trying to convert people, that's dangerous. If you want to start a conversation and help vulnerable people, that's good. If you want to, trick people into paying for your church, which in some cases is what happens, it's like, oh, that's not so good. That's totally bad. Anyway, so let me just continue talking about. So as soon as I realized she's like, oh yeah, and the way I get happy is I read scripture. It's like, wait a minute, this was all a trick. This whole conversation to this point was just a way for you to pivot to talk about, your religion. And it was kind of sneakily done, and you're an old lady, so you get away with it. And honestly, I think it would have been okay if I just said, oh, nope, I'm good here. But, I try to be polite to avoid awkward situations or whatever. So I'm like, oh, so, I just want you to skip through this. Which religion? Because I recently converted or something. I was just like, can we save a tiny bit of time here and just say which religion? And again, maybe that's weird enough by itself to just tell an old lady, what are you trying, which religion are you trying to tell me here? But she quickly goes like, oh yeah, Jehovah's, and I'm like, Jehovah's Witnesses. I actually or JW, and I like to use that term because it makes me seem like I'm like familiar with the in workings or whatever. So I'm like, JW. Sadly though, I actually recently converted to Mormonism because I really like speaking to Mormons. Like off the two, I like Mormons because they come all the way from America, Utah if I'm not mistaken, most of the time, and they travel, and they're actually like they're interested about the country. They're actually interested in what they're talking about. It's like actually an interesting, even if you don't care about religion, it's a useful conversation to have. It's widening your perspectives. Whereas the 70-year-old is just trying to tell me I need to read scriptures in my life because that'll make me happy. So yeah, I've spoken to Mormons recently, and I have one of their books, as it so turns out. So I'm like, oh, actually recently converted, and I go to grab the book because I'm like, oh, it's just behind my sofa or something like that. And as it turns out, the book, because it fell off the sofa, or like maybe I was just reckless with it, it's like pretty badly wrecked. Like it's like the page, the cover's a little bit torn or whatever, and it's like like folded in half, and it looks really bad. It looks like I've just tried to beat this book up, which I haven't for the record, but it looks like that way. So without me looking at it, I just grab it because I'm tired. I go to the door and I'm like, oh, sorry, already big into this book right here. It's like there's a easy way to get her to be like, oh, I guess I better not try and take you because you've already been taken or whatever. But she's like, oh, so oh, she looks at it. She looks a little bit concerned, but then she's like, so what do you like about the book? And it's like, this is pop quiz time all over again. Like I don't know. I really like So I do a pivot and I'm like, oh, actually, I like that it teaches you not to think about religion and to look inside yourself. I say something like that, and then she just goes, oh, okay then. Like, she doesn't buy what I'm selling, and then she's like looking at the book as she says that, and then it's like, I guess I'll be on my way. And it's old lady stuff continues on her way. But it's like, honestly, again, even though I shouldn't feel awkward, it's one of these things where it's like, it's stuck in my head of just like, ooh, the look she gave me as she was like disapproving of what I had accidentally done to this book or whatever. Then she also asked like, oh, but you can take some of my stuff. And I was like, oh no, I can get it. I'm a big fan of the website or something along those lines. Like, don't believe in print books, although I already have one. It's basically had a really awkward moment at the door. And honestly, every single one of my like door-to-door interactions, it's super awkward. Because think about it, when someone comes to your door, what they're, even though they're not saying this, they effectively have the tools of like, I know where you live. Do you want to know how I know where you live? Because I'm at your house right now. And it's like, you can't be rude to these people because they know where you live, like, on the street, you have no qualms passing someone by. When they're at your house, you have to give them some amount of time because guess what? You don't want people, to not like who you are because they know where you live. You want them to leave and think that you're a good person and not worth robbing or attacking or stealing from or whatever they want to do. So, yeah, that was a painful little thing. And it just makes me realize that, like, I need to get like a sign that just says like no casual door-to-door conversation or something like that, because again I feel like that's where the worst conversations go down. And if you don't ever speak to people at your door because I don't know, maybe you don't own your own house, then or you don't live in your own house, I guess I should say. But if you don't have that situation, then what I'm gonna recommend is like sometime give it a go because it's terrible, and I don't know, it's probably a good like trainer for the rest of life because the amount of awkward situations, it's like a vaccination for awkwardness, but not as much as one I had at a YouTuber event recently. So this was a YouTuber event set up by, I don't want to say the company actually, but it was set up by a major company you can imagine I worked with heavily and sometimes work with now, and they invited several YouTubers, but they invited the YouTubers in groups. So I was invited in a group of like 4 YouTubers, but 2 of them didn't show up. So it was me and another YouTuber. This YouTuber happens to be female, but this is a separate story if you can't tell. But the YouTuber happens to be a female. And I again, we're not going to mention names or anything like that. Just going to say like, oh, met a female YouTuber there. She's something along the lines of my age, and somewhat attractive, I would say. So now we have that out of the way, just kind of clarify that we're there at the event and there's an opportunity to speak because it's like a big presentation where they're like, this is what we're considering, this, that, etc. And I'm just there like, okay, yep, that's not a good idea, and I was very vocal about it, whatever. And again, not much actually speaking though between us two, just us and the event people, like talking about this, talking about that, things that are going on that are going to change in the future. So anyway, the event finishes and it was like half an hour, and we're like, oh, we came all the way to London for this one. So I start, you know, again, it's myself and the other YouTuber, and we start speaking because we got a little bit of time. And it's like, oh, so you come all the way to London for this? And she's like, oh yeah, I did. Whereabout do you live? She says where she lives, and then she's like, and then I'm like, oh, we actually, you know, we have to take the same journey back to the station or whatever. She's like, yeah, I guess we do. You taking this thing? And it's like, oh yeah, I am taking the Circle line too. So anyway, just want to clarify that, whether we're on public transport, but because we both need to go to the same place, I'm not stalking her, she's not stalking me. Just key information to get out of the way, I feel like. And, you know, it's 2018, you don't want to have this stuff go wrongly. So anyway, like along the journey, like, you know, we start talking. It's really great. We have, like, you know, it's good stuff, you know, good conversation, I would say. I mean, I hope that, you know, it's clear what I'm saying here. So yeah, basically we have some good conversation, and then she's like, oh yeah, it's a shame I came all the way to London for nothing. Are you doing anything else the rest of the day? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm considering doing this and maybe doing that, and, you know, I'm gonna hang out in the center, do this. And she's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do something in the center too. And I'm like, you totally should. You should go to the center as well. You know, like, clearly acts like, you know, in retrospect, I'm clearly saying, like, you know, oh, don't come with me, do your own thing. But I was just saying, I was just thinking, like, yeah, like, you're only in London this often, you should go pick a thing to do. Like, I didn't want to do the accidental film, but she's like, yeah, I'd love to do whatever you're doing. And I'm like, oh yeah, you totally can. Here's the directions to it. Like, and it's one of those awkward moments where I realized afterwards, like, you know, she was clearly asking to hang out or do whatever, and I was just like, oh yeah, you could do that, you know, by yourself. But I wasn't even saying it that way. I was just deliberately trying not to say, like, oh, whatever. My point is, it's something I think back to still, because, like, that's a YouTuber relationship. Like, I don't really have too many of those, because YouTubers are weird people. And then I meet, you know, a YouTuber that's not a weird person, and then suddenly, guess what? I'm the weird person, because I mess up, like, a clear social cue to, like, hang out and maybe do something. Which, you know, by the way, would have been totally down with. Would have been a lot of fun. And, yeah, that's the thing. So, for the record, it's worth mentioning, like, still friendly with this person, talk every now and then. And I just wanted to mention that as a little fact that, like, you know, even in the situations where everything seems like it's normal, you can have the awkward situation where you act like, and after something like that sticks in your brain, you never forget it, and it's like a permanent dent on the thing, but it shouldn't be. So, I don't know, maybe that's a pro tip, maybe it's not. But now you know, Toycat does the awkward, even with other YouTubers sometimes. So I also, another, like, story of, like, that happening in reverse. Actually, you know, I have another awkward, like, YouTuber story, because I meet a lot of YouTubers, and YouTubers are weird people. Like, I really do believe that there's something wrong with people that makes them want to become YouTubers. Like, again, I clearly applies to myself too. I'm not going to say everyone but me. But, yeah, YouTubers are clearly weird in some way, that we want to broadcast some amount of our life to the internet. Like, nowadays, some number of people, like, think about the Vine stars. They're on YouTube because it's a money-making machine. So, you know, maybe they're normal people. I mean, they're not. But, you know, they could be normal people. You know, some people get into YouTube with the money now. But the people who got into it before the money, like, you got to think, like, why are you into it? And the simple answer is, like, because you're weird people that want to share your life. And that, yeah, again, that applies to me. Why do I want to share my Let's Play world so bad? Why do I want to show you my mountain being built? I don't know. It's like some weird compulsion or something. So, basically, YouTubers are weird. And I met a YouTuber. And, you know, she gets, like, apparently this is female YouTubers. Basically, it happens with both genders, just these happen to be two stories with female YouTubers. And, you know, she says something along the lines of, like, oh yeah, I used to do insert thing here. And I was like, oh, you used to do insert thing here? And then she's like, oh yeah, you could never tell by looking at me though. And it's like, you actually could tell. And I was like, oh, okay then. And my point being, people overshare, it's terrible. And, you know, just one more story here, because it's the exact opposite of all these things. So those are some awkward Toycat IRL stories. I have so many more, because my life seems to be just kind of filled with them. But, you know, again, I think it's a good thing to have awkward moments like the ones I just mentioned, where, again, everything kind of goes the reverse what you're expecting. In fact, wait, fun fact, I was at a convention recently where, without, like, kind of saying anything to me, they put me on a list to do, like, a dancing event. Big no-no, by the way, like, I don't know how to dance. And then, like, you know, got a whole convention full of people watching me do dancing, by the way, which I just decided, like, I'd go extra awkward on it. So, yeah, I've got, like, two solutions to awkward. One is, like, double down on it, and, like, if you make it seem like you're making it deliberately awkward, it's, like, a funny thing, and / or, you know, you can't ever, you know, because accidental awkward is the worst thing, but on purpose awkward, that's like a funny thing you can do. And second of all, I actually have another story here, because this is on my list of, like, awkward stories, but it kind of isn't awkward because it worked out in the end. But basically, once, I have a friend who lives in the north of England. His name is, I guess his name is important, but the town is just in the north-ish of England. It's technically the Midlands, but we all know that's the north. So he lives in the north-ish of England, and I go to visit him every now and then, and when we visit, we, check out the local area. So, he's in university, or was in university? I'm not sure how, like, ages and time work, but, so, he's in university, or college, as it is known in America and a few other countries, and we go to the local, few places. Oh, my door is just ringing right now. Let's see if it's someone asking about my religion. I'll do like a live recording if it is, and I'll get back to you in a second. Well, that was a disappointment. It's just an Amazon parcel. I kind of want to do a live unboxing, but like, I guess you have to take my word for it that it wasn't a thing. Would have been beautiful though if I could have included that. Like, speaking of awkward door interactions, every single time you expect the door to be something, it's always something else. That's my experience living alone, by the way. But so yeah, anyway, basically, let's go back to my little mini story. So yeah, we went out for a few drinks in the local place, and see some local people, meet some local people, whatever. Because that's just a fun thing to do. Like try and find strangers, or not even deliberately try and find strangers, but like hang out, do your own thing, and then if it happens, and anyway, my point of I'm so bad at telling a story like this because like it seems I can never explain meeting a stranger without making it seem intentional. Like, because meeting people is like, it's such a weird thing to do accidentally, but it happens accidentally all the time, right? Like this story right here, where like again. We needed to sit down somewhere. There were 3 seats on a sofa of some form, in like a bar or something, and they're all there's like 3 girls there, and it's like, okay, we're gonna sit down next to the 3 of them, and like, because the seats are kind of awkwardly placed, one of us had to be like all the way to the right, one had to be to the left. So we figured like, we'll just kind of like smooth this out later. And so yeah, I sit like by myself, being like, I figured I'd be the hero, sacrifice myself. And then, they can, like, do their talking, then we'll, like, make it all better, or we have to leave, or whatever. So, yeah, anyway, so I'm just like, oh, hey, these are my friends, blah, 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 and, she's like, oh, yeah, and where do you study, what do you study? And on the spot, I make up some really, really weird example, because, I'm like, oh, I'm from this uni, and by the way, what do you say you study? And, like, just trying to be like, like, deflect the question, and she's like, oh, yeah, I'm in broadcast journalism. It's going to be my thing. I'm going to be like on the news or whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, what about you? You think you skipped over the question? And I'm like, oh, I actually do print journalism. Because again, I being a YouTuber is so many more steps than you ever want to explain to a stranger. And even like being self-employed or anything else you want to say, it's too much. So I'm like, I do print journalism. That's my thing. Because I think print journalism is the way it's going to go. So we have like a mini debate about print journalism versus broadcast journalism, and somehow I win it, by the way. Like, again, such a ridiculous thing. Like, yeah, I reckon the print's where it's at, because, how's the news going to broadcast during the apocalypse? Or some, like, ridiculous stuff like that. She's like, yeah, good point, actually. You made me reconsider my degree here. And, like, it's like, that big about my, like, one-off-the-cuff thing. But it goes even further than that, where I'm just like, oh, you should switch over, again, like, just kind of like jokingly, but like somehow making a serious impact. And then the really cool thing about it is that like, as it just turned out that like, her dad owned the place or something like that, and she's like, oh yeah, and we can get you in, this place for free or whatever, with like drinks or whatever. It's like, whoa, that is the biggest coincidence in my life. And I did it entirely by like not wanting to answer a question and by being awkward. And like, it's like my big fluke in my life. Like, that's never gonna happen again. Like, that sounds like it's a made up story on the surface, and maybe the way I told it makes even more sense. Wait, did I run out of blocks that close to being done? That is a tragedy. If you've ever seen a tragedy, this is it. But so yeah, like, you don't have to believe it if that's not your thing. But it is a thing where I just realized, like, that's all my luck when it comes to like vague events like that in my life. Just all put together into one, place. Oh, I'm being fired at. I think that's all of my luck for like the whole of my life in one place. Like the fact that like, I turned an awkward situation into a good one somehow. And then the good one turned into a better one because she just happened to be someone who, like, had access to this thing, and just happened to want to give it, like, because, again, I'm sure you can't give it to all strangers. She's like, oh yeah, we're friends, so you can, and it's like, whoa, that is beyond understanding. And that's when I realized that awkward is just a way of describing events that like, oh yeah, because it was like, you know, what is it? But the truth is like awkward doesn't have a meaning, and awkward isn't a bad thing, and sometimes awkward leads to very good things. And maybe you don't believe any of that. Maybe what you think is like, those stories weren't true awkward. Like, true awkward is when you do this. And again, truth be told, like there are some moments like when I was young, because I had really bad eyesight when I was like younger, because I didn't ever get glasses because I didn't want them, even though my eyes were terrible. I like could barely tell people apart. So like I accidentally like addressed my like my cousin's like stepdad as my cousin. Like, don't ask how I got them confused. And I was like, oh, you've been lazy today, haven't you? And he's just like, hi, Andrew. I was at work actually. And like, you know, just that one thing, it's like, oh, painful kind of thing. But I think the truth is, also look at all the colors of green I have on this mountain. But yeah, the truth is that you know, awkward seems like it's a really bad thing, but it's just it's a social function to think it's bad, and it's really good. I think I'm glad that people think awkward is a thing, because you know, or it's a good way to kind of weed out really terrible conversations. But if you ever, you know, sit there and like, you know, you go back and you cringe about past you, whatever, just think to yourself like, you know, it's for the betterment. Having these moments, they're like, I think they're the most maybe relatable, they're the most interesting, and at the very worst, you can be like, I'm not gonna have that again. Next time religious people come around, now I know the answer code to like, you know, make, because again, and now I know the answer code to make them be like, oh, I just be like, oh, sorry, already one of your church people. I'm the guy at your congregation, or like, you know, in that other situation, don't make up a thing. Although if you're gonna make up a thing, it might work out for you. And if you meet another person for the first time, maybe they want to hang out with you when you talk about cool things you're gonna do in that day. Always assume the possibility. And again, I feel like that's the cool thing about any negative emotion, really, is you can use it as a learning experience to have less of it in the future. And I don't know, since life is mostly the future and less than it is the present. You know, the present is one moment, the future is like a trillion moments, or a moment is a immeasurable amount of time, so it's an infinite number of moments. So I'm going to pick the future of the present, like right now, when I say I hope you'll enjoy the video, because I'll see you all in the next one. So yeah, I know, awkward Toycat stories, hope you all enjoyed them, try and steal them off the cuff, and I guess I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.